Have you ever imagined what might happen if someone decided to lower a camera into an enigmatic hole, isolated in a remote location, that completely defies the laws of physics? What if the images captured there revealed things so bizarre and disturbing that they could shake the entire world? Well, that's exactly what surrounds the story of the honey hole, one of the darkest legends that the government insists on denying. However, disturbing calls made to radio programs and the disappearance of a legendary expedition suggest otherwise. This mystery simply won't be forgotten. Could we be facing something much bigger than we imagine? Keep reading, because what was found inside the honey hole is chilling. The first connection. The legend of the honey hole began on February 21, 1997. A late-night radio show called Coast to Coast AM, hosted by Art Bell, was on the air. The show focused on paranormal occurrences, and during one of these broadcasts, a call was received. The caller identified himself as Mel Waters. Little did the host know that the story Mel was about to reveal would become one of the greatest mysteries ever recorded. Mel explained that he owned a good piece of land in Kittitas County, Washington, and that he had found something very unusual on his property. At first glance, it looked like just an ordinary hole in the ground, about 9 feet in diameter. Nothing remarkable. One could easily dismiss it as part of the landscape. But there was something different about it, something that didn't make sense. The first sign that something was wrong was simple. No matter how long Mel spent near the hole, no animal approached. Animals avoided the area completely, as if sensing danger. And this didn't just apply to dogs and small animals. Even birds avoided landing nearby. But that wasn't even the strangest thing about Mel's discovery. Because when he looked down into the hole, he couldn't see the bottom. Intrigued, Mel decided to conduct his first experiment. The result was far more shocking than he could have imagined. The experiments. Mel wanted to find out how deep the hole was, and he devised a simple yet effective method. Tying a rock to a fishing line, he began lowering it little by little. During his call-in to the radio show, he revealed the results. He'd used nearly 15 miles of fishing line, and the hole remained, with no sign of the bottom. It seemed impossible. 24 kilometers deep is a long way down, and yet, Mel couldn't find the bottom. Was the hole endless? Did it go on forever? From the way he spoke, Mel believed so, and there was logic to that. He tried throwing objects into the hole, hoping to hear the sound of impact. It was another experiment. But every time, no matter what he threw, be it a television or a washing machine, there was never an impact sound. What did it all mean? How could a seemingly natural sinkhole have no bottom? Mel was perplexed, but the evidence was there for him. The depth of the hole defied the laws of physics. How is this possible? Well, the deepest hole ever dug by humans is the Kola, super deep borehole. At nearly 12-kilometer deep, deeper than the Mariana Trench, Kola required the use of industrial drills at the limit of their capabilities. And do you know why they stopped? The temperature. At about 12 kilometer, the heat was so intense that the rocks turned plastic, closing the hole as soon as the drills stopped. The honey hole was at least twice that deep, and that alone made it impossible to exist. At that depth, the walls should collapse. The rocks should give way and close the hole. But none of that happened. And because Mel used fishing line, which returned intact, not burned or damaged, it was clear that the temperature inside the hole wasn't nearly as extreme as it should have been. Scientists denied that such a hole could exist. It defied all logic, all the laws of physics and geology. Yet there it was, the honey hole, defying explanation. However, depth was only one of the factors that made this hole so unusual. Sure, it appeared to have no bottom. But what about the other absurdly strange things Mel documented? The black light? Mel described the hole in more detail in other episodes of the same show, in 2000 and 2002. And one of the most intriguing descriptions was something the hole periodically emitted. It was a light, but at the same time, it wasn't light. Mel described it this way: imagine how a flashlight emits light in a beam. Mel's hole did the same thing, only in reverse. Instead of light, it emitted a beam of darkness. And not just any darkness. One of Mel's neighbors saw it and described it as the blackest of blacks. A solid beam of darkness. It seemed like an omen. And once again, it defied logic. Darkness is simply the absence of light. It's not something that can travel in beams. But somehow, the hole emanated this as if it were something physical. Nothing made sense. And if it were just Mel saying all this, maybe he'd be dismissed as a lunatic. But even neighbors reported seeing the same things, making it hard to ignore the reality. And then came the radio anomalies. The strange radio. After realizing the hole's anomalous properties, Mel began visiting it more frequently to conduct experiments. To pass the time, he carried a radio. But even that was affected by the hole's influence. One time, while listening to his favorite music station, the radio began to emit strange voices, people talking, but without being able to understand what they were saying. Things got even more bizarre when the radio started playing songs from another era. Old songs no station had played in a long time. It was as if the radio was picking up signals not from another place, but from another time. He even broadcast programs that hadn't aired in decades. All of this was terrifying. But by this point, Mel had witnessed even stranger things. He wasn't there just out of curiosity. He was conducting experiments, with results that defied all logic. The paranormal. According to Mel, reality was distorting around the hole, causing inexplicable phenomena. For example, Mel saw certain metals change shape or transform into others when brought closer to the edge of the hole. This effect was most pronounced at the entrance. Other substances also appeared to change, and to test this theory, Mel conducted an experiment. Curious and creative, he filled a bucket with ice, tied a rope to it, and lowered it into the hole. When he pulled it back up, the ice hadn't melted. However, there was a strange quality. The ice, without turning into water or steam, was hot. Hot enough to burn to the touch, yet it retained its shape. It seemed it wasn't just the hole that defied explanation. Anything that entered it also began to act abnormally. This theory was further confirmed by another incident. Mel and a neighbor used the hole to dispose of trash. Since it appeared to have no bottom, it seemed useful. When one of the neighbor's dogs died, he dumped the body in the hole. Bad idea. If inanimate objects were already behaving so strangely, imagine what could happen to organic material, especially a body. Shortly afterward, Mel and her neighbor began seeing something unusual. They spotted the same dog, wearing the same collar, wandering through the nearby woods, healthy and alive. No one dared approach, but they could have sworn it was the same dog. Only something was different. The dog didn't recognize its owner. Even when called, it wouldn't respond or come near. It was frightening, and, as far as anyone knows, the dog was never recovered. Still, all of this gave Mel an idea. The sheep. Mel devised a new experiment. Until then, he had only used inanimate objects like rocks and ice to test the hole's anomalous properties. What if, instead of lowering just inanimate objects, Mel decided to lower something organic, something living, like a sheep? That's exactly what he did. Mel tied a sheep to a rope and prepared to lower it into the unknown depths of the hole. But if the episode with the dog had already been disturbing, this experiment was about to become pure nightmare fuel. According to Mel, he lowered the sheep without any problems. It struggled and bleated on the way down, but when it reached about 450 meters down, everything stopped. The silence was absolute. The rope remained motionless, as if whatever was attached to it was no longer a living being, but merely dead weight. After a while, Mel pulled the sheep back. And that's when the real horror began. The sheep was dead. Not just dead. She had been cooked by the heat, though the rope was completely intact. But that wasn't even the strangest part. Mel described what happened next in vivid detail during her call into the radio show. The sheep had a visible swelling on its skin. It was a large lump, and, to Mel's horror, it was moving. Startled but curious, Mel cut open the lump with a knife and removed what appeared to be a seal fetus. According to him, the creature had eyes that seemed intelligent. When it looked at Mel, it seemed to understand more than a normal animal. The seal-like creature, however, didn't stick around. Before Mel could capture it, it jumped back into the hole, as if returning to its true home. But, like the dog, there were subsequent reports. Shepherds in the area reported seeing the seal creature, and when asked about its appearance, they said it seemed benevolent. This was, by far, the strangest thing that had ever come out of the hole. But here's the most interesting detail. Mel wasn't the first to find this hole, nor the only one to know of its existence. The native legend. Another part of the mystery involves the native peoples of the region. Red Elk, a Native American shaman, was one of the few people to see Honey Hole with his own eyes. He says his father took him there and told him it was a bottomless hole. Apparently, the natives knew about the hole long before Mel ever set foot on that land, and avoided it as if it were a curse. They believed it was something evil, cursed, and should never be disturbed. And considering the results of Mel's experiments, perhaps they were right. According to the natives' accounts, the hole led to another world, or to a dimension humans were not meant to enter. And this raises the big question. Could the anomalous effects around the hole be caused by the fact that it was the entrance to a world with completely different physical laws than ours? The shift in metals, the temperature difference, the ice burning without melting, all suggest so. The natives respected the hole. They avoided it, believing it was something best left alone. Even so, the hole remained obscure. Only the locals knew about it, and many treated it as just another oddity among many. Certainly no one had bothered to study it as thoroughly as Mel, and so no one ever discovered just how strange the hole truly was. Mel's hole would have remained a mere local curiosity if not for the radio show's connections. This attracted public attention. Many stayed glued to their radios, listening to Mel's discoveries. But not all attention is good. Soon, Mel had unexpected visitors. Suspicious signs. It wasn't long before Mel began noticing suspicious activity around her home. Unmarked cars parked nearby for no apparent reason. Strange footprints appeared on her property. And then, one day, everything came crashing down. Mel returned home to find people wearing yellow containment suits blocking the entrance. They wouldn't let him in. Mel protested, asking why he couldn't return to his own home, his own land. The men said a plane had crash-landed on their property while he was away, and that, for security reasons, he couldn't enter. But there was no rescue vehicle. No first responders. No injured people being treated. Not even an ambulance. Just people in yellow jumpsuits, taking notes on clipboards. Nothing in the plane's history matched. No record of an air accident in the region was found. It was clear what had happened. The government knew everything when Mel went public. And now, some agency was covering it all up. And as expected, Mel soon received an offer. A large sum of money, $25,000 a year, would be paid to him, on the condition that he leave the country and remain silent. If he refused, they would make his life hell. They said they had found an illegal lab on his property, and that if he spoke out, there would be consequences. The lab was a sham. It never existed. It was just an excuse to make Mel regret speaking out, or speaking out again. After all, who would believe a criminal? Mel had no choice. He went to Australia, quiet as a mouse. For years, no one knew his whereabouts or what he had to say. Just when everyone thought he was gone forever, Mel returned. But the person he returned was only a shadow of the man he had. A strange return. Mel returned to the United States in 2002, and, as before, he called the same radio station to share his experience. His voice spoke of the weight he carried, what had been done to him, how an innocent and curious man had been destroyed. Mel spoke much more softly now, more slowly, struggling to organize his thoughts. But what he told the world was shocking. Mel said that after being expelled from Australia by the government, he returned to Washington 2 years later. The government had told him not to return, but he didn't listen, and he would soon regret it. Mel couldn't clearly remember what had happened, but he had the scars to prove it. There were marks on his arms, as if 4 lines had been cut. Several of his teeth were missing. He remembered undergoing surgeries and procedures he never authorized. It was all very hazy. Mel's brain had been messed with. He had trouble remembering things, trouble thinking, after whatever they'd done to him. Parts of her life had simply faded from memory. And yet, Mel didn't give up. She tried to return to her property, but found soldiers stationed there. His land had been taken by the government. Unable to return home, that was his last call to the radio show. And it was there that he revealed another surprising discovery. A second hole. Mel claimed to have found another sinkhole, similar to the one on his property. He discovered it in Nevada during his research. But this new hole was different. It had a metal ring around the rim, unlike the original hole, which had brick walls. The metal ran down into the depths, as if it had been manufactured along with the hole itself. And Mel had done the same experiments. The results were identical, so there were not one, but two holes like that scattered around the world. And with this revelation, Mel's story came to an end. He never appeared again, and his story became the stuff of urban legend. But with mysteries like these, there's always a rebirth. The return of interest. Honey Hole sparked renewed public interest thanks to the internet. People still remembered the call-ins to the show years later. And then, one day, someone found the recordings. They went viral. Forums, subreddits, YouTube videos, and various social media platforms began to discuss the matter. For many, it was just a creepypasta. But for those who remembered the surrealism of listening to those calls live, there was something more there. Many people began searching for the location of the honey hole on Google. They wanted to know the truth. Was it real? Did strange things really happen there? Was it truly bottomless? So many questions, and only one way to find out. Go there and see for yourself. A new mission. Reddit user named Deathwalker33 did what no one else had. He found the exact coordinates of the hole. In a bare patch of land, there it was. Mel's hole. Everything matched Mel's accounts. Interest was growing rapidly. People were serious about going there and seeing for themselves. And then, as if by magic, it all disappeared. The satellite images everyone was obsessed with analyzing were blurred, as is often the case with military bases. Once again, the location was hidden from the public. But that didn't dampen interest. On the contrary, it only grew worse. And soon, a small group of 5 people prepared for the journey, willing to risk everything to uncover the truth. They took cameras and a drone and headed to the coordinates. What they found was far more disturbing than Mel, or anyone, could have imagined. Camera inspection. The group arrived at the hole and were surprised to find it there. They were no amateurs. Each member acted rigorously, taking notes, making observations, and documenting everything in detail. As soon as they arrived, they wasted no time in beginning their mission. First, they checked their equipment, making sure everything was in order. Then, they tied the camera to a sturdy rope capable of withstanding extreme conditions. It was slowly lowered into the well. From the start, the camera captured something strange. The walls of the hole were too smooth to be natural. They looked man-made, as if something gigantic had bored through the ground. After some time, the group noticed another anomaly. There was no sound, only the images illuminated by the camera's own light. No noise came from the bottom or the surface of the hole. Frightened but determined, they pressed on. They continued lowering the chamber further. The deeper it went, the stranger things became. The temperature, for example, behaved unusually. The attached sensor showed that, instead of increasing with depth, as is normal in the Earth's crust, it was decreasing. It was getting colder and colder, to the point where temperatures were exceeding sub-zero. Then the group noticed something strange in the camera feed. A glow, like a flash of light that appeared and disappeared in a split second. It was deep in the hole. It happened again. And again, the deeper the camera went. The light changed with each appearance, growing more intense, more colorful, more strange. The magnetic field sensor registered strong readings, and the equipment's compass spun out of control. Nothing worked normally. Everything indicated that the very laws of physics surrounding the equipment were being altered. And then, something even more bizarre appeared in the video. A kind of distortion, as if space were being warped. Insistent on uncovering the truth, the group continued recording everything and lowered the camera even further. And this decision would prove costly mentally. When the camera reached about 177 meters deep, the filming stopped. Everything went still. And then it appeared. A strange figure. A thin silhouette that remained motionless, completely still. Colorless, faceless, and yet standing, as if watching. And then, the signal was completely cut off. The rope fell away, as if the weight attached to it had simply vanished. And sure enough, when they retrieved the rope, only the broken section remained. The group panicked. They didn't want to stay there a second longer. They quickly packed up their equipment. All they had as proof was the footage they had recorded. And it was this very video that generated even more controversy. The strange censorship. As soon as they returned from the expedition, the group wasted no time in publicizing their findings, along with the terrifying video. The footage was posted on a private website, from where it was quickly copied and spread across the internet. And then strange things started happening. The original video was taken down almost immediately, and re-uploads began to be removed as well. Sometimes the videos disappeared without explanation. Other times, the consequences were much more serious. There were cases of people having their hard drives wiped, accounts banned, and files corrupted. They all had one thing in common. They had uploaded the video. Despite extremely aggressive censorship, the video spread like wildfire. Like a virus, it was copied and republished before being removed. A debate began about what had actually been shown. Theories began to emerge. Some said the hole was a sentient void, reacting against anyone who tried to explore it. Others said it was a portal to another dimension. Many pointed to the effects of temporal distortion, suggesting the hole was a rupture in space-time. One of the boldest theories was that time repeated itself infinitely inside the honey hole, creating the anomalous effects. But what about the oddities? The fetal seal, the burned sheep, the dog that came back to life? To many, all this indicated a door to another dimension, something we should never mess with. The government seems to think the same, as the area is reportedly under extreme surveillance. No one is allowed to approach the site, much less lower another camera. While the story of the honey hole seems to end here, there is one last piece of information that could change everything. Rumors indicate the existence of a third hole, similar to the one in Nevada and the honey hole itself. Some believe it is in, but many think it is in another part of the world. What about you? Do you believe there's a third hole? What exactly was the honey hole? Share your theories in the comments below. I'd love to read them all. And while you're here, don't forget to like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, and stay curious.